This conference will now be recorded.
That's it.
So what we felt would be the best thing to do is to have a special meeting just to review these capital improvement projects, specifically here listed, item number 2, in advance of a full capital budget meeting. Obviously, we've got that scheduled. That involves all the other departments. It's really a lot to comb through. And so we've had a lot of discussions at trustee meetings, emails, correspondence, obviously talking about a lot of these different things. We just heard the presentation from EDG last night with their finalized document outlining the capital plan for the next 10 years for some of these items. So we felt like it might be best to, at least for 2021, have a discussion specifically about these items, what we want to consolidate, priority-wise to fund, to isolate some funding for those. What source of funding are we using for those, and specifically just for 2021. So that's really the purpose of the meeting. Like I said, I think it's really to kind of consolidate the discussion at the full capital budget meeting, just to talk about these separately, because it can kind of be a long discussion about some of these. So I'll review the capital projects, at least that we've discussed over the last 6 months to a year, projects that might be looking at receiving funding or at least applying for grants in the 2021 year. And then I have the documents schedule from Environmental Design Group here before us that I'll share with you as well. That's the 10-year capital schedule for each 3, the stormwater, the sewer and water, and the trails. They outlined some funding resources in more detail that they shared last night over the presentation. And then hopefully we can select our priority projects here that we're going to target for 2021. Again, some of these are big projects. We might just be applying for funds in 2021. We might not be really spending this, but that's why we're having this discussion. So hopefully select those projects that we'll be able to take into the capital budget meeting on the 22nd. Identify the funding source. We'll be using JED revenues or other source of funds that the township has to fund those. Necessarily don't have to land on that today, but just a topic for the agenda, and then other business. So any questions before I go into some overview on some of these projects?
Just one.
Okay.
One thing I don't see on here is the Tri-States property.
Yeah. So the parkland stuff is kind of, I think one of the pieces. The Ace Tire property is a property I've looked at potentially for park space. That's probably going to maybe be in the capital request. But the Tri-State parcel, we've been really looking at trying to get access to that parcel. I think it's going to be really difficult from the north side with the driving range going in there. So I think at least the topic, at least internally in our department, has been maybe looking at seeing if Summit County wanted to look at this for a metro park parcel. If somebody wanted to take it on as kind of like a nature preserve, because it's extremely environmentally sensitive and it's really hard to get access to it. So I think looking at trying to build a road back there and get some parking to do a lot of recreation stuff might be a challenge from the Shockalog access. So I haven't pursued that yet, but it's definitely on my list of things to do to see if somebody would be interested in doing kind of, because we really don't have a parks department for maintenance, at least at this time. Right. So seeing if somebody else would be interested in that piece of land, because we kind of ran into a dead end. I haven't been involved on the gas well, but the oil well. But same thing with the billboard sign as well. So
said another way, you don't think Shockalog access is good enough to provide a small parking area for a nature trail?
I wouldn't rule it out. It's really heavily forested, and so it'd have to be, you'd have to do a ton of clearing. And I think at its widest, it's less than 60 feet, if not 60 feet total. So it's pretty narrow through there. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't rule it out. We've just been trying to look at that from all different angles for access, because that's the hardest thing. So it's a beautiful site. We staff walked back and took pictures. It could be a really nice piece of property, but we were hoping to get access from the north side, but then the driving range is coming through and developing that. We haven't had formal plans, and we will talk with him about some kind of access when he comes through with submittals, but
The county road requirement's only 50 feet.
Yeah, I think it's just like I said. It
I
would
mean,
be
it's
hard-
gonna cost,
Yeah,
but I think we want it. I would like to keep it.
okay.
Figure out a way to get on there. If we have to use the oil well easement,
Mhm.
you know, then that's all we got. That's all we got. It's a large piece of property that services, you know, that side of the township, that kind of thing. And it
Yeah.
is it's unique and it becomes, I don't think a lot of maintenance, if we make it a nature wildlife preserve type of thing, then I don't think we have a high cost, it'll be a high cost to put in a 50-foot wide road or whatever. We don't have to make the road that big, just the
Right.
easement.
Yeah, and it could just be
And
stone.
then we
Yeah.
could have just little, like you said, a nature trail or something. I think we keep it and we make it work. So maybe it's not this year. You get your costs and easement and you'll have to have David look at what we're allowed to.
Yeah.
And somebody's gonna complain that whoever lives next door to the.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
it's close to the houses on north and south side.
But then, you know what,
we do have-
it benefits them that we have taken that property off of the, you know what, to just tell them, hey, you have a nature, it improves your value.
Yeah.
You have a park in your backyard. You just gotta sell it and say, you know what, you're gonna have traffic. It's not high traffic. The parks are only open in the day, blah, blah, blah. You just, you know, it's gonna be, you don't wanna say too bad for you, but that's gonna be too bad for you if you don't like it. You just.
Passive use recreation. That's really what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Passive use
so-
recreation.
There's nothing wrong putting in a park by somebody's house.
I guess number 3, the internal park improvements, definitely could be applied to that. So those are funding sources through NatureWorks, Clean Ohio to do internal park improvements, so trails within recreational facilities or acquiring recreational facilities. So we were just thinking
Okay.
about our park, but that's definitely funds that can be used. Those are actually open until June to apply for. And so that can be done for doing like a passive open space trail, and you could use funds to do something in there.
All right.
We
I
just-
didn't mean
we just
to
got-
didn't mean to upset your agenda. Why don't we talk about it down in.
We just got to look closer at the access, so we'll keep hammering on that.
All right. Sorry, Loudon.
No, it's good.
Well,
So
that's a big deal. We spent a lot of time and effort to get that.
Yeah.
That was you weren't here, that's all. For us, is a lot of time and effort
Right.
invested to get that finally approved.
Well,
And it is a unique spot.
it is.
It's not gonna be a basketball park or whatever, but it's a wetlands.
Yeah, it's something that I think if we don't attack it in 21, if we don't make it a priority this year, then for 2022, we need to make it a priority. I mean, I think it's that high on the radar,
Okay.
in my opinion.
yeah, we'll keep looking at the access.
Okay.
We just haven't we've always been focusing on the north. Now it's probably time to focus on the eastern access. Okay, so like I said, those are the items that we would, A, B, and C would like to talk about today, go through them in detail, see what your thoughts are on what we should pursue. I'll start with the trail projects here. So this is the blown-up version of the multimodal routes.
Thank you.
And this is a summary estimate of the priority projects.
This is the EDG
Yes.
slides we saw this year.
So rather than read the 110 pages, this is the condensed version for us.
This is the trail. So,
Thank you.
so they've prioritized, and I've sent this stuff to you in emails, but I realize that it's been a lot of emails, so I'll just refresh real quick. Prioritize the projects, at least for us to target in the immediate future, would be the Ridgewood High School corridor and the Township Community Park corridor. So on that map, the park corridor is the green and the Ridgewood Road is the orange. So the cost estimates you have are to your left. The park corridor, the estimate total is $3 million, and the Ridgewood Road corridor estimate is $5.2 million. Total for those two priority projects is just shy of $10 million. So we had some discussions kind of internally with staff, different departments before we kind of put some of this together. I think we probably got to pick one of these that we want to go after. And I'll be just honest. I think the funding sources that are best suited for these projects are probably through ODNR. And those applications are due on March 15th, but I wouldn't get upset about that because it's a pretty substantial process to move forward with either of these projects. We've got to do a lot of public, working with landowners, education, going out and doing, finding out if we need easements here and there and stuff like that. So, I think necessarily today might not be which one of these are we going to necessarily fund in 2021, because I think we won't be applying for a big project like this, but we could at least, start the process moving forward with, one of these projects. We can still do work on both, but I think, we thought that the park corridor might be a more immediate return on investment. It's a much smaller cost, $2 million less. Some of those sections, the southern section that connects from Cleveland Massillon Road to the park, is shown on a township paper street. So it's a right of way that exists today. One small connection would be needed to try and get to the park. So I'll caution anyone that listens to this that this is just a line on a map. This is by no indication, meaning that we're going to take anybody's property, or there'll be a very long process of education with these residents and getting their public, involvement and stakeholder feedback on this. So I don't want people to think that we're building this today over their property, because that can sometimes be interpreted that way. But the park project would definitely be a little more feasible, given that some of that right of way exists today. You've got Arrowhead School, you've obviously got the park, and a connection that we would, like to see on that south side, and I should say southwest side of the park. Obviously connecting to our big amenity, connecting a lot of residents, schools, and so forth. So that's, like I said, the one we kind of were targeting to move forward with, at least a lot of education and stakeholder feedback. The connection to the north of the park is probably a little more difficult. I haven't really tackled a lot of that environmental constraints that the 3M property does present, where that's being shown on the north side. But we'll look into that. But would obviously be a fantastic connection to make to connect the park to the residents. So again, I don't think we would be spending any money on either of these two projects for any kind of construction in 2021. But I just wanted to get the board's thoughts on moving forward with taking a look at these. I mean, I wouldn't rule out some of these small connections down here in the neighborhood that could possibly be made. They're pretty short spurts, and we do own some of that if there was a lot of public support of that. But are there any questions about those two projects?
So I want to go back up to the Ridgewood Road corridor, and I'm looking at the map, and you've got three segments broken out. You've got from Medina Line over to Kingsbury. Then you've got a void until you get to the high school. And I drive that full stretch of Ridgewood a lot, including the eastern leg of it going out toward Jacoby. And where I see people walking, where I see the cross country team running, is not where these three segments are. Where I see them running is from Kingsbury to 77.
So you're saying the section from like Hametown
to 77.
So that section, it's a little confusing by the map. That section has been cost estimated out. So EDG did that for us actually already. So we have a cost estimate, which would be for extending that sidewalk from the existing sidewalk today, which is just on the west side of 21,
Yes.
all the way to Hametown.
Okay.
So the thought was maybe this would be a safety project because of connecting the residents and the students to the high school, because the state does have safety projects that are bike and pedestrian related. It doesn't have to be a road project.
Is that the Safe Routes to School program?
It's a separate program.
Okay.
So the project EDG was working on that with us, just kind of assisting with some of their contacts and potentially setting up a meeting with the district, ODOT District 4, but their schedule at the state has been delayed. So there's really been no point in meeting right now because the decision-making process has been delayed. So the first step is to meet with them, get them to say, yes, we think this would be a worthwhile project to pursue. And then you get funding to do a safety study. Safety study indicates the need for the project if there is a need. And then it's in line for funding. So that's been the goal for that section. is to use that for the safety funding. So that's why that's not being shown,
Okay.
because that's already got a cost estimate. It's already, had some preliminary planning work to move forward with that.
So we're assuming that's moving forward, and we would connect either end of it.
Yeah, I think we're still going to always pursue that from a safety funding aspect if we can qualify that project for safety funding. So we'll still be pursuing that sidewalk extension. I think that's really important with the existing sidewalk there, the sidewalk over 21. It'd be nice if we could extend that to at least to Hamestown.
Yeah, I just, okay. Compared to the other 3 segments on Ridgewood Road, that's the more important of
Sure.
the segments.
And we'll keep pursuing that one.
So you didn't put it in because you already have a cost estimate.
Right.
What was it?
I want to say that section was a little over $1 million, 1,100. It's just a lot. It's just Ridgewood's a really tough road. And that's part of why this cost estimate's so high, because you have got open ditches. You've got to probably do a lot of ditch enclosure, driveway replacements. You don't know about telephone poles and relocations and stuff like that.
I think EDG too has designated that area as very important. That's why ODOT would be interested in it. ODOT isn't necessarily going to give us money for the rest of it, but that section of it, they probably would. And Kingsbury could connect right into that. So I think that's why it's not on here, because they don't anticipate we would have to do any funding for it, that it would be an ODOT, I mean, maybe the match,
Just
but
safety.
it would be an ODOT safety grant.
Okay,
Works.
okay.
So yeah, as that project comes up, for a safety project, we'll reconvene with the board.
So let me ask one more follow-up on it. Timing of that. When will we know?
That's the trick.
I think that one's at least delayed like a year. I shouldn't say delayed, but the funding doesn't come until at least a year later. So I think if we were to apply and be awarded, I think earliest you'd see money in 2022, probably 2023 for that safety project.
Oof.
So
Oh, yeah, I think the grant gets applied
Yeah.
for and the funding is years down the road.
yeah, a couple of years. Yeah.
ODOT, if it's ODOT,
Yeah.
it's gonna be 5 years.
At least.
A lot of their plans are 5 years.
The safety funding. Yeah.
But if they're paying for it,
Son of a bitch. All right.
for the.
But if-
the
I mean,
new
we would-
bridge over Copley Road, that was a 5-year.
If we get the quick answer from the state that says we don't believe this qualifies for a safety project and the board still wants to pursue it, then, then we can pursue it along with the other corridors.
So
I think that's the first step to find out if the state feels like it's a
Okay.
safety project.
when would we have that answer?
Like I said, the EDG has been assisting with setting up the meeting. We talked to Dwayne, it's probably been a month, and he said that, they reached out to them and they were just delayed on the existing cycle that they were currently on, not focused on anything new yet. So it's probably worth an email to find out where the state's at on that, but it's just been the state being a little delayed on their scheduling.
And I guess the reason I'm asking, and the reason I'm pushing it so hard, is of all the projects listed here, that's the one I would want to do first. And so if ODOT is going to turn around and say, it's not a safety issue, you're on your own, then all of a sudden I would take it from not being on our radar to being number one in my mind. So that clouds the discussion on everything else we do today, in my mind. I can't speak for Bruce or Scott, but in my mind.
Well, we can move quickly. Or try and move as quick as the state can move and getting a discussion with them. It may be very clear. I think on the surface, they were at least willing to have a meeting. I think they felt like it was worth having a meeting to evaluate it. So they didn't say absolutely no way, this wouldn't qualify. So I think there's some merit to that, but we just need to get that answer quickly from the state.
Okay.
We've been trying to.
All right. So Southern Park, the south segment of the park is, in your mind, of the projects presented here, the top peg.
Yeah, I feel I feel pretty strongly about that, just given the cost. The south segment is under $1 million, 775,000. So you can get through the ODNR program, you can get funding got to provide, some kind of match.
And this essentially links park over to the neighborhood here too.
Yeah, and the school as well. Arrowhead back there goes right across Arrowhead.
I have had people actually ask for that. They were hoping to get through Druid and then actually make a trail so this neighborhood can walk to the park as well.
Yeah, I think it would be, like I said, given that we have that paper street there, I mean, you don't have to go acquire all those easements. It's just
People would park at the school, another parking.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a chance, Loudon, that the school would contribute to that cost?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it'd be worth the conversation to see if they want to partner. The more, the more resources we get, the more partners we have in
I
this
think
grant
we could
application.
sell that because they would use the park for field trips, just walk over.
Right.
For sure.
So the more partners we have, the much better the grant application looks. So,
How do we go about making that connection with the school system? Would you be the lead on that?
yeah, absolutely. I think if, I kind of, again, a little confusing because I don't think we're going to spend any money on this project this year, but I just wanted to let you know that how the cycle worked and that, what I would be spending my efforts on, throughout 2021. This project, a lot of people probably don't know that paper street exists. So it'd be an educational process, using some of that neighborhood ambassador linkage that we have. And then, facilitating that discussion with the school and saying, listen, we feel like this would be a great connection to make. Got all these dense, homes here, schools here. We'd love to get a connection from everyone to the park from this side. So, I think it's just, comparatively on the cost side of things, especially as we talk about some of these other projects we want to embark on, it's a little more tangible.
Even a school can get money. They get you money for different projects too. I mean, even if they just participate a little bit, every dollar. You said, Jim, even if it's just, because this isn't necessarily a really expensive, like putting a road in.
Right. And I mean, I'll obviously, pursue the applications, that exist this year. But I think, like I said, some of these projects that we're talking about here, these corridors are really, I think, best suited for the ODNR or the state's application, which is the TAP program, which is later in the fall of this year. And so that's that's the state funding too. But the ODNR program seems, it's the recreational trail program and it's the Clean Ohio through ODNR. But those are submitted in March. So that's what I'm saying. I'd like to spend a
You
year
get more
doing
points if the school's involved. Maybe.
the scoring, the packet is up in my office. It's like 120 pages.
Yeah.
So I've highlighted a lot of things, but I would have to
Page
imagine.
37 offhand.
I'm still reading through it, but I just think in looking at history, typically the more entities you have involved, the better.
So-
Support letters.
Now, ODNR answers quicker because when Mark applied for the bandstand at the park, we got an answer within faster than a year, I guess.
Yeah, and
So
obviously-
that's helpful.
That is helpful.
And with these things, I'll set up, we'll set up some calls and get, say, hey, this is gonna be the first time we're applying for this program. This is what the project, and these entities are usually pretty good to work with. They'll say, yeah, this project, qualifies, I think you have a good chance, or don't waste your
Right.
time. It does, you don't check this box and that box. So we don't get too far down the road.
Now, this could also maybe a safe path to school, because that's a grade school connecting Westview Estates to
Right.
Arrowhead. That might be another one to even consider. So, well, I guess you're asking us, would this be our number one priority?
Yeah,
Is that a question?
and to your concern in the beginning, we'll continue to work on that sidewalk project.
Okay. Absent the Ridgewood
Yeah.
sidewalk to connect the high school to Kingsbury.
Okay.
That would, this southern park would be my number one.
I think so too. I like it.
I do
I
too.
think it's a complete community involving a school.
Yep.
You might have a better finger on the pulse in that area for going Kingsbury up there with the sidewalks. But I'll tell you, so I have not heard anything, but I have heard several different families talk about how great it would be for their kids to be able to get across Plymouth Madison Road and get on a trail to go up to the park.
Yeah, and you're not taking them up Copley Road now. Now you're taking them in, it's just a better path.
Yeah,
And that would also allow those folks in Drew Hill to get over the school property.
Yeah. And this is all in the plan, so when you submit this application, they can see that you've invested a lot of money in the planning aspect of things. EDG's done some engineering analysis and stuff like that. We're not just drawing lines on a map, so. Okay, we'll continue to plug away with that. I guess we'll go through these really quick, and then we can maybe talk about what kind of funds maybe we want to set aside for some of this stuff. Janice, feel free to cut me off here if
No,
I'm
you're doing well.
getting off topic. So again, maybe at the end, we can touch on how much, if we do want to set aside some funds for potential in-park improvements that might open up this year. So the Nature Works and the Clean Ohio are ones that do internal parks, if you want to make a connection internal to a park, much smaller scale projects that might be out there. So if we do want to reserve some funds to set aside for some matching funds for that, that would be an option if we have internal elements that we want to look at.
And you're saying that's something that could actually arrive this year?
I don't think the funding would arrive this year, but we had talked about it might be nice to hold, when you're applying for the funds, you've got the funds accounted for and you've budgeted for them.
You don't have to encumber them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that gets you extra points if you actually have them encumbered
Budgeted.
at the time you apply, so that they can look at your financials and see there's money available. They're not just loans.
yeah, we've got the match ready to go.
Okay.
So, just something to think about if we want to, hold off an amount for some of those. If, we talk
What
about.
kind of internal park improvements are you talking about?
I think if we want to make some connections inside the park, I'm still familiarizing myself with the park. I don't know if Mark's really mentioned a lot of connections he wants to make. I think, I don't know if that's something that we would want to do this year, and I don't want to keep putting things off, but I mean, this item number 4 that kind of came up might be a little better option. This has come to us recently. The internal park improvements might be another thing with the
Well, one thing
tri-state
that,
route.
like, there would be a major
Okay.
improvement would be water sewer. Which we already talked about. But that would be the next, like, we've done the fields and the pavilions, and the next thing to be like an impact to people there would be the back.
All right, so do you want to talk about Little Farms before we could talk about tri-states, internal in tri-states?
Well, yeah, tri-state would be another option. Like I said, with the internal park improvements, that's another site that you would probably like do some real passive, just stone, very low maintenance, because it's so environmentally sensitive back there.
I mean, when I look at the community park we have now, I'm not sure how many more trails you can add.
Sure.
Right.
It's right there.
It's just connecting to them.
It's not that large.
Yeah, so right, it's connecting the neighborhoods to it at this point. It's really on the way to the park as opposed to internal park.
Right.
I
Whereas,
mean, we just connected the other neighborhood.
right, so now if you connect
That
from the
was a pretty good
southwest,
deal.
Yeah, they've loved it.
Yeah, they're,
Great response. to
yeah,
that.
still today.
so now if you connect from the southwest, that really is good. So that, but as far as internal park improvements,
The water and sewer is the one for that.
Yeah.
Would be the substantial improvement. Money wise though, that's.
well,
not-
I want to go back, I mean, there was a thing before I became trustee, when I was taking the auditing class. Where there was something about a property, I was auditing the trusteeship.
Oh.
And there was something about one of the a property that was donated on the front side of the park, contingent upon us doing
Oh, the
something for the senior center.
Senior center. So that is
Yeah.
important to add to the list, because we do have an obligation to St. Ed's to have something accomplished.
In 5 years.
Yeah.
It's
We didn't-
renewable.
I'm sure that they will extend that, but the 5-year mark was put on there so that it doesn't go.
It was a matter of funding.
It's funding and sewer. We can't build a building here that's sewer.
Let me, all right, and
Well, I'm sorry.
go ahead, no, finish the thought, because I have another internal park project.
Okay, because, so what we were talking
I know you
about-
love me, Lon, come
I
on.
do, no.
What we were talking about initially with that was a senior playground. So senior playground being a trail with exercise equipment that seniors are able to use, anybody really, but seniors also. And then it became, oh, let's do a pavilion. And then the pavilion became, oh, let's do a building. And oh, then now it's a senior center. And so
Community center.
like a lot of projects, we start with one idea, they balloon into many others. So if we could identify one aspect of that that would show movement toward having something for seniors on that area, that would be awesome. We don't have to build a building right now.
We
But
could
if
do
we-
another pavilion with plans to have room for a building in the future and start the.
There's a
program.
resource.
What's our obligation?
We had to do something in 5 years,
But what is the something we have to do?
something senior related.
St. Ed's wants a naming, something named for them.
We
Okay.
We
that's
went
it?
back and forth on, are they requiring a dollar amount, and they really didn't.
No, they
So
did
we
not.
were worried, oh, we're gonna have to spend $500,000 or something, but they did not request that.
They want
So
something named. for
Bill
them.
Daniels wants that.
We did look some,
He hasn't been here.
we did look at some, we went around and toured some Metro Park buildings and stuff and saw
Right.
some. But we, like Janice said, knowing what I know now versus what I knew when I first started in this position, you do have to start with an anchor. You do have to just clear some trees first. And then you put the playground equipment in, and then you put the pavilion in.
Right.
And then someday somebody after us.
And what we
will put a
also
building in.
emphasized was, if we end up with more functions at the park, then we can add, there's room to add parking, because the parking is, not
So
substantial.
where is this property in relation if I'm turning into the park?
On the
To
left.
the
On the
left.
On the
left, it's how many?
Okay. So
11 acres, I want to
11
say.
acres, and right now it's completely not used by the park.
Correct. And
Yeah.
I think there's a
Nothing
lot
over
of rock, which is why St. Ed's couldn't build on it. They
Right.
had initially gotten it and thought they would put their own center there, but it's not really buildable. So they hung on to it for years, and now they've donated it. So, yeah, they just want some recognition that they donated that and a naming issue.
So the St. Ed's Skate Park
Fine.
for seniors.
It can be,
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
it can, I mean, that's, trust me, skate park came up when we were putting.
Well, the reason I bring up, because of topography and rocks, actually that kind of works. But,
Yeah.
so this is another 11 acres that would certainly be an internal park improvement.
yes,
So, and we have an obligation to do something
yes,
within the next 5 years. It seems like this is something that should be at the top of our list for the parks.
I agree.
One of the biggest hurdles that we have to overcome that I've felt prey and witnessed is we need all these, or we need all the good ideas, but then the board has to give direction on what number 1, number 2, number 3. You come in with a different idea. I'm using you as an example, not to put you down.
No,
You're big on the sidewalks on Ridgewood. I agree, but I might be bigger on the senior center down there. But we have to come to some agreement at some point, because Janice and Loud will sit here and do nothing until.
So we're doing that. We agreed that our number 1 trail is the southwest
Right,
park connector.
But as we're talking here, we're identifying other issues too, so.
Well, but that's the number 1 trail. So now what's our number 1 thing inside the park? And then we'll compare our number 1s. How's that? Is that fair?
And that's a good idea. And also, what drives the decision is if 2 projects cost the same as one other one. So it's the
Right.
cost, and that's why I keep asking, how much is it?
Well, I think that's why we're doing this today, so that
Right.
we can go get some costs
And
for
then
the meeting on the 22nd
and
and say,
say, we have enough money for, as you said, for
right,
what can we do this year or next year? So we could do some things, if we're spending our own money to do plans for at St. Ed's land, we could spend that now.
Yeah.
We are looking for grants and stuff, but we could put in parking and the playground, senior playground area and say, hey, we did something to show for our money and not spend a lot of money.
So a community center, building a building on a building where the donor said they couldn't build a building, doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Well,
No,
well, the
but-
building they wanted to build is
Yeah, it's
this,
a
and the
different
building
building.
we want is this.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
we can
And you
build what
can-
you want.
And some
Okay,
people
okay.
donate money to something like that too. And the
Okay.
seniors can go out, and so we involve So this is the seniors, Bill Daniels, I keep bringing it up because they have an expectation. They know about it. So they're willing to, like you mentioned, the other parts to sell it. Hey, the township is gonna spend money on this and we're all for it. And they contribute money, even if it's $1,000, they buy in.
We also talked to Summit County Public Health, and they're willing to partner and have some type of
Yeah.
a senior center.
Partner
And
with
pony up money,
financial,
yes.
right.
So what happens though is we need a project that says, this is what our project is. Are you interested in donating it? What happened before was, okay, we get to the building part. Well, should we put that in with the fire and police station when we go to buy it? And is it going to be over here, or is it going to be down at the park, or are we going to do it over here? And so it just gets blown out to a point that no
Or even
decisions are
discuss
made.
the fire station.
Right. So
So I
just starting off with a definite project that we're going to do in 2021 and move from there.
I think there's also a really good resource for this, which the township typically doesn't qualify because of the income calculation, is the CDBG funds. And so those are, you apply for those and then they're pretty much issued very quickly within a year. And I used to administer them at my old job at the county. And even though we don't have an income qualifying, seniors qualify. So we've been talking, Janice and I have talked with the county a few times about a senior playground. So you could do, you could apply for $50,000, township gives, 20% match, public health chimes in, and you can basically, get that project funded through the CDBG program, which the township, and talking with them, has never been awarded a CDBG application before. So that helps because typically don't fund the same communities every year. You try and spread the wealth. So that's a resource for that. So if we want to just say, we want to go with we want to build, parking lot, we want to build a senior playground because the seniors are the qualifying, class.
And leave room to add on.
And then, then we can go with for the building, and so later on. So
Okay.
if you really want to, if you do something for the seniors, you've got the CDBG resource as well. If we just said, let's build another playground.
Right, and I don't think we have to wait to see if we get the CDBG funds.
No.
Let's put $20,000 toward this for 2021. If we get the CDBG, then that 20,000 is open to do something else or to improve on whatever the CDBG is.
Will 20,000 get
I have
us?
no idea.
All right.
I'm
I
just
think-
using that as.
What was the number that Springfield
I
Township,
want to say it was 50.
was it?
Do you think? Or 30?
I
don't
thought it
know,
was
obviously.
25. We asked him. We can find the number
Yeah.
between now and the next meeting. But Springfield Township
playground,
did the
The
senior
parking lot's
playground.
gonna cost them more.
Yeah, we
Would
can
there
do
be a
like
separate parking lot?
Yeah, you'll need one over there. It's too far away.
From
Handicap.
the Eastern Connector? It's too
Mhm.
far away?
For the old group.
I would think it's right by the Eastern
No,
Connector.
no.
The backside of this property doesn't touch the Eastern Connector.
Yeah,
Look at it right here.
it's got a cut. It has, you're right, Jim. It's that whole side there.
Yeah.
But
So here's the parking.
that's a long way to walk
This is
though.
all-
It's a long way from the other parking. That's all. The trail is close.
This trail here comes in right here now, right? It comes
Yeah.
around.
there wouldn't be any parking if somebody
Back
wants.
side.
But there's no parking there. You still have to park over here. You're gonna be a geriatric pretty quick. I mean, stop it.
So yeah, that's a great, great idea. I think the playground is like a cost-effective option. It's something
Okay.
unique.
Probably start with that one. Let me get that straight.
So, yeah, why don't we,
Yeah.
that should be a one. Now, I have another internal park idea. We have this park right down the road here. It's called the Copley Circle. They need parking.
I was gonna bring that up. We gotta do
Oh,
something.
no, I
with
beat you
parking.
to it. Screw you.
Parking around the circle seems to me like would be an inexpensive move, but we gotta get something to.
So we've had those preliminary discussions with the school, right, about the ball field. And I'm telling you, that's the perfect place because it touches several CIC owned properties right now. Okay? And all of a sudden that makes the CIC owned properties more developable because their parking, you don't need to consider their lot for their parking because they have the parking adjacent to them.
Do we have to buy the land or can we just pay for the parking? School
Well, I
still owns
think,
it.
well, I mean, the original conversation we had with people at the school system, from from the board to the administration, to Wheaton, to whoever, was, can we do something where we hook up the middle school for sewer and we take back the ball field? Obviously equalizing the fair market value. We know sewer is kind of tied up in Never Land. Right?
I get a question, but I don't want to interrupt you, but I'll get a question.
So we know sewer is tied up in Never Land right now. Is it an appropriate time for us to just go buy the ball field with cold hard cash?
Why can't we just pay for the parking lot and they can use it too?
Lease the ground.
That's fine too.
I'm thinking about that, but correct. Why don't we just do it as like a co-venture? We put it in and they can use it. They give us the land, we put it in.
It's still
Can't they-
conveniently
can't they hook
located.
right
for
here?
them.
Can't they hook up the sewer right here?
Yeah.
It's the wrong end.
Put
It's
a
the wrong
grinder
end.
in.
They got a pump.
It all goes downhill to the bus garage.
Oh.
They have to pump.
But-
But they can hook in here. They just have to. But they don't have to pay.
And they made a deal with the devil, Akron, and for Akron to write a letter to the Ohio EPA to get them off their back and give them a delay, a stay of execution of a year or two. John Wheaton did that. So they're not as pressed as they were on sewer, and we know from our side sewers in Never Land. But I guess I'm saying Copley Circle's park. We treat it like a park, right? When we allow people in there, we treat it like a park. And
Not gonna talk about the 500,000 people that died from this.
And I guess I'm looking, is there funding, if this is an internal park fund improvements that there's funding for, parking for our Circle Park qualify? Virtual question.
I'll have to look into that one. I'll look into those programs specifically, those internal park or those improvements, and report back on all these, the tri-state and the parking,
Okay,
and see what would be qualifying, when we'd be looking at the funds, so we'll know on those. I think I'll be honest, I haven't been able to really make great contact with the school being new here. The board probably has a better relationship with the school board. I'd be more than happy to set up a meeting.
Yeah, we're locked in. I mean,
So,
I'm close friends with the board.
I'll get in touch with one of you and help facilitate a meeting.
He
to
was
talk
on the
about
board.
a couple different items.
it ditched into us. Yeah.
They demoted
A
him.
bill, yeah.
Along with the parking lot, there was some discussion about alternative parking. I don't know if you want to name the area or anything, but
Yeah, we looked at parking, would be just west of Circle K, back in there. There's some vacant lots. We shared some concept plans with the owner. No movement on that. Need to follow up with him. And then the CIC does own 3564 Copley Road, which is just adjacent to Napa. That house, at least the CIC's plans were always to demolish that house, but I think that would obviously be a site we'd want to develop, but I don't think we'd want to make permanent parking. But
Right.
it could be a temporary solution, but
But that's not a lot of spaces.
very small.
You take a look
That's
at,
small, that's
you take
little.
a look at that middle school
Yeah.
ball field. And I'm just talking the infield and barely getting the outfield grass. You can get, Matt, your predecessor actually worked it up. I want to say it was 80 or 90 cars in there.
Where was he pulling access from?
That's right.
Was it from Sassy or was
Well,
it?
you
on
could-
the circle.
You could pull access from two ways, right from Sassy Sunflower or next to Napa.
Next
Both
to
would
that,
be
you're
right there.
basically just gonna get a drive.
Yeah.
From the
You're not
Yeah,
gonna
You
get
do
parking.
own all the way to Napa,
Right.
so there'd be a gap in there.
So now all of a sudden you got two ways in, and you could come out of that parking area and walk right into the circle. We post a traffic cop there to make sure we got
Well,
hit.
there is a crosswalk in front of so,
Yeah.
that's a designated crossing on the south side of the circle.
And
Not a
more,
great one, but
just as importantly, CIC owns 3 properties that are adjacent to this parking lot. This piece of land I'm talking about, right, Circle Park. That makes those 3 pieces of land developable because now all of a sudden you don't have to worry about parking on those parcels.
You know, that is the parking. The township has said in numerous surveys, they want something done.
Mhm.
The most talked about subject is how our downtown looks. So we're not gonna change that. In my opinion, I don't think, you're the boss there, but I don't think we'll have much movement until we get parking.
That's correct.
I-
Parking and sewer.
I can't, there's 2 or 3 people last night, Dave Firestein mentioned about the nice sign that
Firehouse.
Firehouse has put up, and oh, it's gonna go great, we just gotta take care of parking there.
Yeah, it's gonna be an issue.
And I'm not trying to, we're not in the business of providing parking for individual business, but we are trying to improve the
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah, it's a parking is unfortunately a big issue. People won't
Right.
commute to areas without. So
So-
that's something, I mean, I think the ground lease option is great. The school might be a little cost effective option. School can use it for events during the day and stuff like that.
So let
They
me,
have their own parking issues, right?
yes, they do. So if I may, okay, if it's okay with the board, I'll reach out to the people I had the prior conversations about the sewer trade for that land. And we'll talk about more of a land lease, as Scott suggested, right? In the meantime, you gotta,
I think it's a win-win if we
It
say,
is.
hey, we'll pay for it, but you still.
you get to use it all you want,
We'll
yeah.
pay for the park and then we jointly use it.
Yeah, we'll put
And then-
materials and
You've
maps
got to
in
make
it.
sure that this is a qualifying project for an internal park improvement grant.
I would suggest, if you don't mind, doing that reach out, but doing an introduction, have Loudon there as well.
Sure.
I know.
I thought you and I went over and met with Wheaton and Borchek one time.
We did.
Okay.
And, I think it's just been bad timing with the
Okay.
school and they're, everything with COVID, they're trying,
All
they
right.
got bigger fish to fry, obviously.
So let's go
so-
redo that.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
Third internal park project then, in my mind. So we said southwest connector to the community park, parking for our Copley Town Park, Copley Circle Park.
I got a sticker.
Yes. And my third one, and fellow trustees, would be a crushed limestone nature path through Tri-States.
That's 4, because we have the senior programs.
Oh, no,
This-
the path to the park was Trail Greenways. Sorry.
Yeah, but if we put
South
those,
corridor is not.
so
an internal
once we
park
get,
improvement.
you get some cost estimates and then maybe we can do all of them. Or we pick and choose parts of each to do part of each one.
But going back to what Loud and Janice said, the three of us should prioritize.
Right.
Those are the 3 internal park projects in my mind that I think we should pursue. Of the 3 of them, which is the most important to you, Scott, and Bruce, and which, so they have some clairvoyance.
You want me to answer that
Yeah.
now for myself?
Yes, sir.
My number 1 would be the parking at the circle, but it's a very close second would be the park trail from.
Arrowhead.
No, that's not one of the 3 internal park things.
That's going to be a separate application,
Okay.
yeah. So,
My second would be the senior center.
All right, I'm good with that.
And your third would be Tri-States
Yes,
crushed limestone.
Yeah. I really do like, I think that's a project, personally, I think that's a project that are,
Boy Scouts.
yes, I think there should be some community play there and some interaction with our service department.
Service, does what the service department could put in that, a trail is a lot of work from scratch. And I don't know the topography exactly.
We'll go back.
That could be a lot of work, but we can budget, Mark has, if he has room in his budget, that becomes the service department, put in the trail and part of his capital improvement, because he's spent a lot of money on, he's come to us on all the improvements on the current park trails and so forth. So that comes out of his budget and it's gonna, I think that's gonna be a big ticket.
Well, I think you appropriate it so that you can get grants to match.
Right, but put that with him and he can give you pretty good, he'll do all the work on that.
And that's the match
That
too.
takes it off
So
Loudon's
if Mark
plate
is going to
somewhere.
It's an
install
in-kind
it,
match.
yeah, instead of saying we're gonna, have
Anything with
40,000
the
in cash,
park,
we're gonna.
we can work that money through his budget. He has maybe a little more room than some people too.
So our internal park improvements, so I'm speaking for all of us now, our number 1 choice is parking for our circle park. Senior center, whatever.
Playground and
Playground,
parking.
yeah. And number 3 is Tri-States crushed limestone
Yeah.
nature path.
So I'll finalize how these qualify and then maybe, if 2 of them are just say, we got to look at a different avenue to
Yeah.
fund these, I'll clarify that. So,
Okay.
I think we can probably, isolate some, whether that's for the senior playground, like Jan said, 20,000 or something like that.
And if they need, yeah, like in Common Lane, I haven't walked that senior reason, but or culverts and things for the trail mark, they can do all that.
Yeah.
Saves us
$8.
a
Yeah.
lot budgeted just out of using his labor.
All right, it's people or the cleaning in the office.
Oh, the cleaning.
Okay, so last thing on the trail and greenway development. So this was just a few days ago.
Yesterday, wasn't it? Yesterday. Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Yeah, it was yesterday at 2:00.
So the map before you is obviously of the Little Farms area. I've highlighted Jerry Pansner's property, which is yellow, or which is not yellow, it's got the red dashed line. It's about 15 acres down off Wright Road. The big parcel to the southeast with Yellow Pond is currently owned by the University of Akron. And, obviously the Pansners have, kind of a wetland area down there, protected area. That they do a lot of education and work with the University of Akron. And then obviously I wanted to show in relation to where everything was, the Bessie Williams property. So I don't want to speak out of turn for all the work that's been done that, predates me. And there's a lot of stuff that's been, time and invested in plans for the Little Farm area. So with that being said, we were approached by the University of Akron. Jerry Pansner is looking to sell the parcel highlighted.
Highlighted in
The red dash line.
red dash, not the, he can't sell Bessie.
Yeah. So he, obviously wants to, maintain the history and the operation and the relationship they've had with the University of Akron and continue to do education and stuff back there. The University of Akron told us that they, would perceive this being like a perfect place for like a field station, using the existing house, having like an educational element, having events and stuff back there. And then obviously if you can eventually land the Bessie Williams coupled with all the properties that the township has acquired to the east of that in Little Farms area, you've got a really nice, piece of ground that's not only stormwater retention and floodplain management, but it's also hopefully a place that we can implement those future trails and boardwalks and stuff like that. So the next map, the next page is the actual kind of, you can see where the house is located and stuff that the wetland areas that they have identified. But candidly, I don't think the university, at least this department, necessarily has like a budget funding resource to pay for this. So they're obviously coming to the township for a partnership. They did indicate there's several opportunities out there for grants. The state is allocating through the H2O program a lot of money for wetland restoration projects and so forth. But they're looking to, if he does move forward with selling his property, try and acquire it, partner with the township. So I think, the market value is $300,000-400,000 in that range that he's looking at. I think he's trying to be out of there by next summer at the latest.
Looking to do something about putting it on the market or something this spring,
Yeah.
summertime,
Right,
to
quickly.
be gone by April or
Yeah.
22.
Yeah. So, obviously, I think, on the surface, this looks really good. It'd, be a great opportunity to, have that kind of education down there, protect that area because it's, we get calls all the time, people wanting, when you buy my property, it's flooding. Well, they're in totally engulfed in a floodplain. And obviously we spent a lot of money on acquiring parcels from the land bank and stuff down there. So we've invested a lot in that area. I just don't, know what the board's thoughts are if the timing's right and the cost.
You may have mentioned this, but they were talking about putting like a science center there. This is the parcel of dry property on in the whole area. And so it would be prime to have like a like a nature center there, a place for parking, a place for schools to come in and go out and so forth. So
But the university wants it.
university wants to partner with us.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah, but-
they want to necessarily, they don't.
They don't want to own it.
Yeah, they don't have the resources.
Well, they're hurting for money.
Right. They don't.
Everybody got, the universities, colleges, they're all went broke last year.
They're offering the ability to get grants, so pass-through grants. that
What's
they
a-
can
what's the,
obtain from
So
the state.
Panzer wants his money, and what's the appraised value?
You said 300 to 400?
Well, that's what he's
asking.
asking. You have, for us to purchase, you have to do it at appraised value.
Well, CIC jumps in, right?
That's the most we can pay. We can pay less.
Right. But CIC could pay whatever they wanted.
The only thing about, I agree, but the CIC, you gotta remember, stop me if I'm wrong, but their focus was supposed to be downtown.
Well,
Well, they
it's
have-
also on commercial.
Yeah, in their strategic plan, they have 3 areas: commercial development, and then part of it is green space as well, and then another part is identity. So it
This is
can
green
fit in
space.
their strategic plan.
So let me add, I'm a novice here on this one. I don't understand the Panzer UA connection, and how it's used today. Right, and because of that, I'm not able to think how the community would use it if we acquired it. So
Yeah, well,
I
that's
don't
my
think they-
concern. That's why I brought it up, because we're not really gonna use it.
What they said yesterday is that they have a huge connection with the schools, Copley Fairlawn schools, and they have Herbrook and Arrowhead specifically are doing field trips there all the time
So that would be the school.
that run through the university. But we also had a $10,000 grant from Summit County Public Health that EDG did a bird's eye overall design plan
The
for
trails.
that area. And that's what you see,
Boardwalk
the
trails,
boardwalks and so
yes.
forth. So the idea at that time was that the community would use it, that it's a natural preserve. It's, if you put the boardwalks up, that's why we were buying the properties, to put trailheads. There's during the walk and talk thing that we had last year down by Dunkler Farms, talk about putting canoes in the little creek that goes by there or whatever. So it has been thought of as trails and greenways space for residents to use.
So the Panzer acreage is how many acres? 15? And the University of Akron property is what, 50?
62.
All right, so if we were to acquire the Panzer property, would it be seamless with the University of Akron property? So all of a sudden it's 70 acres that, our residents could come down there and there'd be a trail that would go through all 70 acres?
Yeah, I don't know,
Well, I
I don't know about disturbing the wetland trail, putting trails in. That's
Well, no, it would have to be elevated. That's what was in the original plan, elevated.
I
yeah,
think the design they came up with was for the Bessie Williams property,
right.
because that is something that we are pursuing as well.
We've been heavily pursuing trying to get that, but we would take it now, but the state can't come up with a program to satisfy the feds EPA. The state EPA and the Fed EPA haven't.
They want to
shake
agree
hands.
on the
Although I think they've come to more of an agreement.
recovery, and then
Hoping
there was
to
the
get
guy who
some work
owns
done
it.
this spring.
But,
The guy,
but again, Panzer doesn't touch Bessie.
No,
And so my question is,
but it touches UA that touches Bessie.
right, so do we have an unfettered, is U of A going to give us an unfettered right to jump from Panzer to U of A property to get the Bessie?
well, I
I think they would.
would absolutely think.
Yeah, I
would
think
do
they
that,
would
because
enter an agreement that allows us to trespass on all those.
Yeah.
Their whole picture, I believe, is preserving this entire area, and they would probably like access to Bessie Williams too. So
Okay.
it's a joint effort of having a natural preserve in
Okay.
this area that helps with stormwater, provides passive recreational activity, and now perhaps a science center for instructional learning that we can use. Of course, this would all have to be put in some kind of agreement, but
Sure.
the feeling I got from them was they would just be thrilled to have us as a partner, and however that looks, they're willing to do. They don't have any money to do it themselves, so they are just hoping that we'll
I
come
think if
through.
the schools use it, you would ask them to partner.
Yeah.
With schools.
What about, well, maybe there's a trade for the ball field. What about the facilities, the actual building that they're on Panset?
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah, I
It's a
don't think the
house.
house was in great condition, as they
Not
said.
I have no
functional.
idea.
But I think he lives there.
Yeah.
No, I
So
mean, it's not functional as a science.
no, not at the time. Well, I don't want to speak.
I don't know, it's still passive.
Yes. I mean, it is nice to, have, like, I think it's tough to utilize these projects because you don't have access and a place to have parking and a structure. And so they said that they really struggle with anything down there because then they got to bring in porta johns, they got to bring in shelter, they've got to bring in, parking and flaggers and all this stuff. And if they do that, then now you have really like a place where people can park. You've probably got some restrooms eventually. You've got a place to house events that's directly accessing all of this. So,
Well, and that's exactly what's in my mind's eye. I mean, we were talking about a senior center on the St. Ed's property or whatever. But, to the extent you already have a building here that could be retrofitted or added a wing on,
Right,
Wouldn't that
you
be your
see that
citizen?
town, where people take a farmhouse and make it a science.
right.
Well, look at the houses on Ridgewood Road that were once residences that are now businesses, right?
Look at the
Right.
houses down in the valley. They
Yeah.
did that way.
So somehow
Look at my
they
office.
get-
Oh, good God. So I guess I'm very interested in pursuing this, including at that price, if that's what it needs to be. I'm very interested.
Would you-
So does this, good, does this become a priority over
For
a
CIC.
crushed asphalt trail in tri-state? I mean, or, because that's where we're gonna have to pick and choose.
Right. So Akron, the university, Akron has a bad flavor in my mouth when I say it. So when the university mentioned that they could get grants and things, and he, was it a lock-in? Yes, we get some grants. What kind of, how much in grants?
No, it was a
Was there any-
very preliminary conversation we
Okay.
had yesterday, but they were clear that they don't have any money for it. But they do have the ability to get grants from the state that we wouldn't be able to get, that they could pass through onto us.
Educational.
So they sent some links to two different grants out there, Wetland Reserve funding and Clean Ohio funding. And then they also she mentioned Rittman, Community of Rittman has done a very similar project with a nature preserve. So I'll forward that to the board. You can take a look at what they've done in their community. So again, this just came up to us. I wish I had more answers and more information, but they were really kind of super excited about it. I think they just thought,
So don't read this the wrong way, all right? Because it's really not intended that way. But all I'm saying is, I think you got to strike when the iron's hot. Remember a year ago when the property next to Tri-States was for sale, and I was brand new, and you guys were all looking at me like I was a freaking idiot. You still do, don't get me wrong. But
Well, the first step with that,
we had an
Would be-
opportunity. We had an opportunity next to Tri-States a year ago. And we missed it. I think you have to strike when the
Well,
iron's
this
hot.
is gonna suck,
Yeah.
like he said.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's a one shot.
Yeah.
He's selling it.
and he really, I think he really, I think he obviously wants to get his money for it, but I think he really
Yeah.
wants to keep it like
Oh,
this. And Steve does
absolutely. It's been
too.
his
They don't,
life.
they-
They've
they-
divided
it's not like
worked
we
for
want to
his
just give it to the
20
highest bidder. They really want to
He came to
maintain.
meeting after meeting and had to do an incredible amount of work to create the quality to qualify. It's a wetland preserve though.
Yeah.
The only question that
He
remained in my
sold
mind.
those, he sold shares
Right.
to a wetland bank.
Does he have any more to sell?
I think that U of A has,
there, so
Well, just like
the first,
I'm sorry, I want to finish. Does he have any more to
I
sell?
don't know that.
Because that's a valuable commodity, right? I mean, we're talking about, for example, down here, Louis and Autobahn, that
Well,
we
this is-
might have to trade.
This is the dry land.
but he,
Okay.
correct, this is. The first step to this is you gotta get an appraisal. Either he does it, we do it, we split it, you gotta consider that. Appraisal is gonna cost you about $3,400, right? around the $3,000 mark. And you have to do that because we can't purchase anything unless the CIC stepped in. I will tell you that I recently read an appraisal for 26 acres in that same area that appraised for 475. So this is about half of that, or a little bit more than half of it. I'd be surprised if it would be much above 300.
Okay, well, he said 3 to 4. He's still not.
I'm just giving you an idea.
Yeah, that's helpful.
The only question I had is that his brother Steve still lives on this property or close by. I
Yeah,
guess he has
separate-
another 15 acres somewhere.
Separate parcel, but yeah, I mean,
Who owns this in Joe or Steve?
Jerry.
Oh,
they
Jerry.
share the same driveway.
So I was saying, so is Steve okay with the, public coming in, kind of science center, parking, coming up your driveway? And they seem to feel that, both the brothers have dedicated their lives to this work, and he wants to have it remain with the Akron U and education and children and all of that.
No, I'm ready to open the conversation, because they'll move fast. It's not.
Well, I just put those numbers out there so
With the
we get a
budget.
thought process and whether or not we want to spend some money in.
You want to authorize a evaluation for
An appraisal,
appraisal?
yeah. But
Why don't we let Loudon reach out to them and see? Generally, and I'm in favor of, if you want to move forward, I'm not saying I haven't made up my mind on it yet, but if you want to move forward, generally you move on some sort of split on that, because if we don't take it, that's still valuable to the seller.
or have him pay for it.
Or have him paid would be the best thing. Or he may already have one.
All right. And then, we can, obviously you feel, it sounds like you're favorable to looking into this. We can look at the grant programs and.
As far as how it falls into the budget, though, we need to know what our budget is. And that, I take it you're going to do, right? How much,
No, do I know today? No.
Right, but well, eventually we will, right? Before the
It's not a
March
deal, then
22nd.
That's where UA can come in.
Right.
Apply for grants. We can reimburse.
And the other thing is, how do you buy it? Maybe he doesn't want cash on the. Right? I'm just thinking about an elderly man, does he want to incur does he want an annuity for the remainder of his life,
Yeah, he said this is his retirement, so.
right?
Right? There's ways to
Yeah,
negotiate.
you might not have to put, if it's 300, you might not have to put 300 in the barrel. You might pay.
And we might get,
Well, tell them we're
you
gonna
might pay
do,
3 or 4 grand a month.
right, 3 years. or something.
Yeah. That makes it very palatable.
We were doing that, we did that with some other options. Vehicles.
Yeah, we'll go back to them, utilize their expertise on these programs, and they can probably give us a little guidance on saying, we would need to have this by then, and when to apply. I mean, because they're the ones that push for the grants. I would think they would push us on the grants if they knew that we wouldn't be meeting some of that cycle, for the timing of all this. So, all right, we'll reach back out,
Okay.
get in touch with them on the appraisal, see if we can split it.
or something, or you already have one.
All right. Good on A. Okay, so I've kind of lumped infrastructure development into, 3 different things here. It's just a very broad title. The first one. You see at the beginning, this is the capital improvement schedule you put together. You can see the cross reference to all our projects. So, I think 1, 2, and 3 are all kind of the same conversation. Sunset Drive improvements, our targeted sewer projects. Targeted sewer projects and safety facility. I felt like maybe just bringing that up because I know we potentially talked about, we're going to maybe talk about that last time. We didn't. This is kind of tied with Sunset Drive. So if you want to just talk in terms of 2021, you're probably looking at dollars for engineering, maybe a little bit of construction, but it has to move very fast. So we're probably looking at engineering dollars for whatever projects we decide to target, whether that's Sunset Drive, whether that's sewer. But I also wanted to kind of bring this safety facility into the fold. So the maps are the projects that you've seen. These are the targeted projects, and then the cost estimates reference those if you have any questions about the project specifically. So, I think the direction I was kind of going in was moving forward with the contract with CESO, and that would be designing Sunset Drive, all improvements. So we're talking full depth road repair, water and sewer, sidewalks, conduit, gas lines, creating that access back out to Cleveland Maslin, and subdividing those parcels. We also piggybacked on that with requesting them to look at designing sewer on Copley Road from the circle to probably the railroad tracks. So that would be part of their design. But we would probably, be focusing on the construction, at least the way we had been talking about it, would be the Sunset Drive. That's the direction I was heading in. We would be, I think we would at least be having some sewer being designed on Copley Road, so we could maybe go for construction, shortly after. But pursuing the construction of Sunset Drive and the contract with CISO. So we don't want to go in that direction. We probably should address that today. If we want to focus solely on sewer along Copley Road or any of these other target projects.
Do we need to
Again,
do a secretary pro tem?
I think she's just,
No.
just
She left.
What she did, what she said.
Yeah.
You just said, I'm not the secretary.
I'm just procedure, do we have to or not?
It's a public meeting, someone, yeah.
That's-
Nobody's on at all except for us.
She was on there and she got off.
All right, good.
It's getting taped,
what's getting recorded.
so.
Okay. Report all, yes.
Okay, I'll second.
Camera's on me.
Any discussion?
So,
Vote for
Yes. I vote yes.
Colner, yes.
sure. Did we vote on?
She's the secretary pro tem.
Okay.
So did I summarize that all right? Like the direction I was heading in was CISO, Sunset Drive. I know that we obviously been talking, we want to design some Copley Road sewer, but that would be incorporated.
So the problem was, sewer is, all the projects on here, sewer is way up here, right? Sewer is clearly number one in Jim's one. We're precluded from having this conversation. Based on what Dave said last night.
And-
Yeah, we're in public.
Yeah, I just think we're precluded from having this conversation at this point.
Right.
Right? So,
So this will have to get more information before the capital budget meeting on where we can get, where we plan to get sewer. So we plan to get sewer, we just have to, we're looking at funding options. So we'll have to wait. We can't, in today's meeting plan, because we're having discussions with the acronym.
Well,
but do you want us just to prioritize?
Well, I think if you want to put something in the budget for,
Okay,
jump in, Janice, for something for some design of, we can
that's.
make the details later, but do we want to put a $200,000 in there
Prioritize the project without funding.
for some design of some sewer or some design
Okay.
of Sunset Drive?
That's fair. We'll go ahead and do that.
So Sunset, I'm sorry, Janice, but Sunset Drive is not involved with, nobody's gonna pay for Sunset Drive but us. Right? Except for maybe the sewer fees. Okay. But as far as the road bed and the planning for it, that's on us.
It's our baby.
We're already in bed with Louis. We're already having a agreement with Louis on, you know, acquiring it right away. We're already in the process. So I think, seems to me we have to continue with that project.
Well, yeah, I'm all for doing that, but it goes back to the question that we discussed in the executive session last night.
Well,
That's all right, but we're just prioritizing.
Just
Right.
just
We just
prioritize.
want to know if we prioritize.
And we're not really talking sewer right now.
Well, my question then would probably go
It's a
to,
capital improvement.
but if we take any steps in that direction, is that an issue for him?
Well, we'll know in a few weeks. We'll have more information.
Okay, all right.
There's nothing in any agreements this township has ever signed with anybody that said that somebody would pay for Sunset Drive to be connected to Cleveland Mountain Road and for that to become a nice county with roadway. Nothing, this is clearly on us.
That's us. The county engineer is not paying for the road.
Yeah.
And the county sewer or city sewer hasn't decided. So that's all on us.
and when we put out the RFQ and got CISO, it was a separate project apart from sewer discussion.
It was separate?
It was a separate project. It was infrastructure on Sunset Drive to connect Cleveland, Massillon to Copley Road. Yes, they're going to need sewer connection, but it was not connected to, oh, now we're going to have sewer down Copley Road and all the way to Jacoby. So when we put the RFQ out, I don't know that we necessarily, did we tell CISO that they're going to be designing sewer down Copley Road to the railroad tracks? Or is that just an after we kind of got them, said, oh yeah, you might be doing this too?
Yeah, so when we asked for.
Right, but not all the way down to the railroad tracks. Right?
We asked them to incorporate basically an additional option to design more infrastructure. But yeah, the project was isolated initially to Sunset Drive.
And the motivation behind that had nothing to do with sewer. It was to build a building.
Right.
And if we weren't able necessarily to do that building, so we were gonna put this road in to be able to sell the outlying properties,
Exactly.
to make some money, to have development, possibly purchase those parcels to fund this senior or safety
center.
center. So it had nothing to do with sewer. Suddenly, somehow it got connected to, well, we can't put sewer on Sunset Drive if we don't connect it from Jacoby to the railroad tracks or to 21. So I just
Well, I
think
know-
it got
I know how that got
commingled in
connected.
there.
I know how that got connected because we were talking about floating debt. And I said,
Okay, that's true too.
and I said, and I think others jumped on board with this, was that, I think my quote was, I'll be damned if I want to float to float debt to improve Sunset Drive without the resources.
True.
Those were the words that came out of my mouth. So I'm probably the culprit that connected those dots.
Normally is.
And it made sense because interest rates are low and why not borrow as much money as you can now because of the interest rates and so forth. But this is just like kind of what we were talking about with the senior center. We have one project that we're focused on and we're moving toward, and then it gets blown into other projects that are important too, but now we're stymied. Now we're at a point where we can't do anything. So CISO's sitting out here waiting for us to decide if we're going to accept their contract or not. They've waited 5 months now for that decision. So I just see it happening again. So let's just decide if we want to do Sunset Drive. Do we want to do Sunset?
Well, here's the thing about Sunset. Like other obligations we have given verbally, we also gave, I was a representative that gave verbal obligations to the people who donated their property on Sunset. And that was improving the road and bringing it to sewer. The other part of that is we own a lot of property there, which is prime, my opinion, prime property. And we can't sell it, market it, because it was currently landlocked, which is no longer landlocked, but is not improved. So if we improve that, we can actually bring, in my opinion, Loudon can wave his magic wand and bring us a nice, I would like a donut factory down there and some other things that might be of interest to the town to bring revenue.
And does that
So-
also not help your downtown and your circle and the parking and the this and the that? Yes. So why tie that project up in the same conversation of sewer when we don't have a clear cut remedy for sewer?
How much was the Sunset Drive improvement?
Now that you brought it up, we can add circle park on that road.
Mm-hmm.
But Sunset as designed, how much change was that? Was that how many millions?
Well, I think the estimate, yeah, close to 3.
3 million? Okay. And that included sewer?
That was, I would think it was the
Included
full,
all
yeah,
improvements.
full improvements. That was the architect at the time, subcontracting engineer.
So in order to do that, we have to do the CISO contract, but we also have to get a bond rating if we're going to sell bonds. So in 2021, get the design, get your bond rating, and then you're set up also for if down the road you want to do sewer, you already have your bond rating. I understand interest rates are probably going to go up, but that's part of a conversation that you just can't hold off on doing anything.
Our upside is we have a good rating. And then you read recently, they don't even put up on junk bonds anymore. They're bad. We're in, but we're being a good rate. They're gonna hold rates for little. Like we said, if we do something this year, by the end of the year, we should. do that.
And if you look
That's
at,
going to be hard to do, though. It's going to be hard to figure out a bond, what are we going to pay and get it. Just to doing a red herring is going to take 5 months. Right?
Just to do a
I
red
have no
herring?
idea. I've never done
To do a
one.
what?
You have to put the document's called a red herring. You got to put it out to, if you're going to offer bonds up, it's a preliminary offering you put out to see if there's going to be interest in it. It's part of the bond process.
Right, so.
So, yeah.
Well, it depends on who you use.
if you
And
look
if
at,
it's an internal or outside.
if you look at the second page, the project B, I mean, moving forward with this infrastructure project on Sunset Drive will, continue to expand the network of, water and sewer infrastructure in the township. So like, what I mean is I don't think it's, I don't think it's spending a lot of money and not having some kind of, progress for future development, of infrastructure. So you can see, kind of that alignment of some of that infrastructure that would be built as part of the Sunset Drive.
So where is the Sunset Drive's not in here?
It's project B, but it's a larger extension.
But
No, I mean, in the capital improvement plan,
No, yeah.
no, it's just all they included was the sewer extension along
Okay.
Sunset.
okay.
Well, I was just kind of saying, it's part of the capital improvement planning process. It's not like we're building sewer in the middle of, nowhere.
So, looking at the infrastructure development, the 3 items you have listed there.
This is just a start. I mean, this is what I just put, if you have other things.
I know, but I want to at least give you my opinion so that Bruce and Scott can weigh in. I mean, because of where we are on sewer, it falls to number 2. And I think literally the way you have them ranked there, Rob, with Sunset Drive being 1, Target Sewer 2, and Safety Facility 3, that's how I would rank.
I agree. I think that fits. It just came out that way.
Yeah, I mean, just because of things we've learned over the last few days.
Okay.
Well, let me grab my head around that one. So move this to number 1?
No, I'm over here.
Oh,
On the
okay.
Well,
agenda.
he's leaving it
Oh,
here.
Okay, I thought you were talking about this right.
He's on here. He's keeping it. the
Okay.
same.
I would rank it
Make
exactly
those
like
1, 2, and 3. The way that.
The way they're written, 1,
Yeah.
2, and 3.
And within number 1 is the sewer for number 1.
Right.
Period. That's it. And then within number 2 is the remaining sewer projects. That I think we have to push aside until we're able to,
Look at the
Right.
funding.
yeah.
So if we're selling, we're talking about selling bonds and stuff, that all becomes.
Right. So we can't really sell bonds if we don't know how much we need to finance. The only thing we know is 100% on our dollar.
But we'll
Sunset.
get there.
So we'll get there. But for
And that
now,
leads us to that point where the county mentioned that if you had a project, would that help us there? Right, that comment that they came back and said, we're not extending anything unless there's a specific project going.
From Summit County Sewer.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it would be developer driven.
yeah, okay,
So it
okay,
would
they're looking
be,
for building.
Once we build it, they might take it, but
yeah.
yeah.
they're not gonna.
I'll go beyond that. I don't think they'll help you put a sewer on a vacant street.
Mhm.
You want a building on the street.
Oh, it's possible.
Well, and you know, as this project's going to take a little bit of time, as you start to develop it, you know, ideal situation is you start to market it, saying, you know, we're designing it, we're investing, start to market. You get a user that comes in, you put a TIF in there, and then you TIF the, you know, the increased property value pays off some of the improvements. So you can't really market the property now because we don't have any infrastructure, any design. But once we start getting investment, we start moving dirt, you market the parcel, people see it, the other parcels, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you gotta admit that a security building on the corner isn't just a big draw. So.
Well, yeah, that's the anchor, thing of downtown. All like an
Police station, you know, gets picked off, you know, utilities and stuff. But I'm just saying there would be tools we would try and utilize
That's just
to help fund some of that, you know, to cut that cost down.
That is, the back of the, how's Newman not made it?
Brian's a good guy.
I
Yeah,
know.
he was helpful for us.
I know.
But you're right.
So what do you think I mean, for the budget for this year? To isolate some funds for design?
I'd like to put the CISO contract into it
Mhm.
and the cost of getting a bond rating.
Yes. Even cost of issuance.
So the CISO cost. Several add-ons in there. Different things if they wanted us to do, traffic impact study and so forth.
Yeah. You know, just so as quickly as this has changed, prioritizing Sunset versus targeted sewer, it could change back the other way if we press the flesh properly and actually have meaningful discussions with support, right? It could, and that's fine. Based on what we know today, there's no question Sunset drives.
So the only thing you're gonna add is you're gonna issue more bonds than what you had initially
Correct.
thought. So get everything in place, get the foundation put in place so that you can then be flexible. Right now, you can't do anything.
You're right. I agree. So if we have to issue 2 to 3 million for Sunset improvements, and all of a sudden some sewer projects show up and want to issue 7 or 8. Yeah, I agree. Okay.
So I'll get you the number. on
Oh,
that.
that's fine. You don't have to do it tonight. CISO kind of, and then I said bond council.
So probably the lowest cost item is the Cleveland Mouse and sidewalk replacement. Or wait, do you want to talk about specific sewer projects? I think we already kind of.
Yeah, no, I think we covered B. I separated C out.
Sorry, it's just, we're never going to get there. Well, maybe in your lifetime.
I like that, 98 years old. You know, now, there's someone
Yeah,
with hope.
I'm counting on you, Loudon.
Yeah. That's what I'll be there to say how things work out.
I remember when you'll log me.
I remember when there used
You
to be,
might have a.
there used to be a school over here. Used to be a school building here years ago.
Yeah, who knows what I'll.
There used to be a circle here.
So I don't think we need to go into the targeted sort of projects because we've been over a million
Yeah,
times.
no, I think we covered all that.
Okay.
So, and again, this isn't a 5-year planning session here. This is just
For this year.
yeah, for this year.
So Cleveland Mouse and sidewalk replacement, you put out 3 options, and in my view, keeping in mind, well, let me ask a threshold question. How far does the sidewalk go? Obviously, it starts.
Let's
All the way
go.
through the circle?
It goes,
Go to the parking lot.
it ends currently today at the Sassy Sun. So it does not go.
Doesn't it go to the antique?
I think it goes.
And then
into
it's
the-
just their metro
yeah,
parking lot.
I think it needs to go past the.
So that's one thing I valued from the county, because I told Joe, we wanted to bring it to Circle.
Yes.
And I calculated like 600 feet, and he drew up 8. So I think he's including, he might be including this house all the way to the Circle. That sidewalk. Okay. So he might just have included all the sidewalk that's out here today, ripping it up for this.
The sidewalk actually in front of the school is in pretty good shape.
It is. I think it might still be 4 feet. Oh, okay, so you want 5 meters.
So Scott, I think that sidewalk goes past.
Right, just, yeah, that's what we were. Because we can make a decision on this, and we're not. Soon after that, we try to assess first. So you just anticipate the what's in it.
I think it's. But I think with these properties, the funny says the most ugly is the front of the antique shop. You gotta start by cleaning it up, by putting in your pathway, or your sidewalk. And maybe a tree line between the sidewalk and road.
Sidewalk is the parking.
Exactly.
I'll get this
Sidewalk will be the
specific.
park.
We'll have to run it right to the street.
You're gonna have, because Cleveland Mountain Road is gonna be improved with the curb.
4 foot, 4 foot shoulders.
Remember
I don't know
where-
if it'll have a curve in this section.
Okay.
Um,
So all of a sudden, the front of these buildings becomes very, very cleaned up.
Maybe get back on.
Or do we?
Luckily, we weren't.
So what I'm in favor of, as far as the Cleveland Mountain sidewalk, is making sure we go all the way to the circle.
Mhm.
Not
That's what I
stopping
had said.
One property short.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'll
I-
finalize that.
I'm in favor of assessing the property owners for the full cost.
And I have some questions about that. Can we delve into that?
Yeah.
And I was gonna try and get a hold of you before this.
We're
and-
deciding on this because the
Okay.
county engineer wants to know.
Right. So what is normal? And have the property owners asked to have that sidewalk?
Yeah, the CIC has.
Is it all CIC?
We just asked.
No,
We-
there's one individual that owns a couple parcels through there that has asked me several times about seeing that replaced.
The rest of it is CIC?
Yeah,
Well, there's two properties owned by the CIC, so we would effectively be assessing ourselves. But that's fine.
Right.
Ted Randall's, when he was alive, was adamant about getting that replaced. Now his wife is selling the property, so I don't know how much she cares, but that was.
And it goes on their taxes for 10 years?
I've seen, yeah, I don't want to say for sure how long. I think we can, it does, the ORC doesn't really state, at least in that section, what the time frame is. So I could be at our leisure. I did see other communities that had a sidewalk assessment policy, if a neighborhood wanted sidewalks, it was 10 years. So, I mean, you could probably scale that by the
It's
cost.
normally discussed as 10 years, and then somebody wants to pay it up front, they can.
And
It's because we discussed it with Silver Ridge and all.
we front the money for it and then get paid back over a 10-year period.
Mhm.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. That's fine. It's improving,
100%?
it improves the value of their property
Certainly does.
substantially.
And we're fronting the money and that's our buy-in.
No, we're not-
And
Yeah,
we're fronting it plus it's CIC, so we're probably in essence fronting that too.
Yeah, and so the assessment process, just so you know, we do have to post it a lot. It takes, it's out for 30 days. It's not as simple as just saying we're going to assess them and that's the way it is. We've got to go through the public,
Public hearing.
notice process and stuff like that. So,
For the 3 trustees, it's as simple as saying we're gonna assess.
yeah,
There's a lot of work to get
we'll
done.
handle the rest of getting the stuff out there in the notices
Right.
and going through.
Is that normal to assess 100% of it?
That's what we were doing on Silver Ridge.
I think
was
usually the
gonna be
developer
100%.
puts the
We weren't
sidewalk in,
Yeah.
and so there's no assessment. It
Is
gets-
what I'm sorry.
I think the
Developer,
developer
right.
would put the sidewalk in, it gets billed into the cost of your house. It's not an assessment, so.
Whereas the
this is a
Silver
little bit-
Rose Meadow.
So, yeah, I think typically in like a residential neighborhood, the community's like, oh, we all want a sidewalk. So we all chime in and we agree that we want to be assessed and you get the whole support of them. I
Right.
think that this one's a little different because it's in a main thoroughfare. So you want to obviously replace it because it's connecting,
Well,
important
this is an
destinations.
existing.
Right.
The other
It's
one we
existing.
were doing was new.
And it's, I think it's a hazard. I mean, it's definitely, it's too small. It's not ADA compliant. We've seen a couple cases in other communities where the trees have uprooted the sidewalk and the tree has, they've cut the tree's fallen and, hit a car and then the township's liable and the homeowner's both liable. So there's some issues with the existing sidewalk from a safety perspective. And I don't want to speak too much on liability, but it's obviously there's a lot going on. And I just think its location on a major thoroughfare, is important to address it.
Find the nitty gritty for us.
How long it can be on.
You want to know the set? Okay. So yeah, again, I think you're looking at, and I think we have to determine, do you want to assess, if the cost is $1,000 to build the sidewalk on this parcel, they get assessed $1,000, and then on this parcel, the cost to build the sidewalk is $8,000 because they've got double frontage. Or do you want to assess it evenly across all 9 parcels?
Site frontage.
Yeah, you gotta go by foot. Everything pretty much is bilineal.
Fine with me. That's
So-
the way I would do it.
And I mean, again,
Water,
you'll have
sewer,
the
it's
public,
all-
you'll have the public notice process and people, will be able to voice their concerns. But you're dealing with 9 parcels.
And that's one I would absolutely do. I don't know what our budget is. I don't know if we can fund any of these things, but there's 55,000 left. That's one I would do right now.
So worst case scenario, you put the 55,000 with the county engineer, they do it, you hold your public hearings for assessment and people are just off the charts angry that they're gonna do that.
Website will be down.
Then you would either make a decision to that, you're still getting assessed, or pay rights or some portion.
Sure.
So, I mean, just look at it as being out 55,000
Either
and
way.
maybe in 10 years you'll recoup that.
But the alternative is that, because the property owners have to maintain the sidewalk in front of their homes. They can trip and fall and be personally liable. So we're covering personal liability or eliminating a personal risk from those property owners.
Right, and we're spreading it out over 10 years.
Right.
It shouldn't be an issue, but
Right.
I'm just saying.
I mean, I think it's really important, from a township perspective, we've got school located here, we've got residents here, we've got, we want people to safely be able to commute between these places and not have to walk on a 35 mile an hour, busy traveled state or county road.
Right.
There's no pedestrian facilities in this urban core, and that's the one that remains. So I think it's an important thing to look at.
It's a pretty reasonable price, right?
It could come in
For
low.
what it accomplishes.
Yeah, it could come in lower. So we deposited 50 and then whatever the bid comes in. We do have to, be aware that I think we have the option. I think I'm correct in saying this, that if we deposit 50, for some reason the bid comes in at 65,000 for that,
Right.
we have the option to say no.
Yeah, they did. Tim Boley said that.
So we can say, whoa,
If it's more than that, you can bail.
What about a safe paths to school grant on part of this?
that's what I was talking about. We don't have the plan in place. So if we had the plan adopted by the school, that was another one of the conversations I want to have with the school is, doing some stuff with that, because once you have that plan, then you can get that funding for the sidewalks within 2 miles of the schools.
Okay,
And this school only, not the high school. It has to be K through 8.
right. So Arrowhead on the other one, on the southwest link through Park. But, the school may be very interested in doing that soon, if we're going to assess them for their frontage. They might want to have a safe paths to school meeting with you really soon to have a full plan.
Yeah, well, I
But it
think,
won't be soon enough to do
I
that.
don't think it might not be soon enough for that, but they should want to do that, because we'll we can do a lot of the work for the plan. Yeah, true. But yeah, I think we'll confirm the.
schools when they open.
It's
They pay
if
property
it's
tax.
not a tax, then they'll just have to pay.
Schools pay property tax.
Do they?
Okay.
No.
No.
But they have a budget, they'll just pay. They can,
No, but so we paid.
they
an
don't pay,
assessment.
they collect property. They pay
Yeah, they don't
everything.
Yeah, what am I thinking? My bad.
No, but when, they'll just pay, they'll just have to budget. We can let them pay over 10 years. We can let them pay us. They can pay us instead of the county. They can just pay us over 10 years.
Yeah.
We'll work it out. We can, like, again, trade something with the
Mhm.
parking. To trade for their
Okay.
assessment.
So,
do you
yeah,
want
I think if we
Bang the gavel. and
we
call for the
include,
question?
I think we'll have to include this, the 50,000 in this year's budget. We'll have to expend this year to get this project.
Okay.
Because they're gonna move. I think they'll be doing construction next year.
Okay.
So that will be done. Okay. And, I just had these other items. I kind of gave this to you too late, but this is the schedule that EDG provided. So this is the breakdown of the multimodal, the stormwater. I don't have stormwater on here. We've just got so many projects that we're looking at. I think the Panzer project would be utilizing probably some of that stormwater funding, the resources to get those projects funded. Potentially the Clean Ohio funds are one of the resources that the Panzer project could use, and that's also in stormwater stuff. And then one of the projects in that NIPS plan is getting, wetlands constructed on that southeast portion of the township and doing something down there. So we would be encompassing some stormwater efforts with that project. Aside from that, we gotta look at targeting some of these projects as we go on, but I just didn't have it on the list just because we've got so many other projects that we're trying to account for, and obviously, financial situation surrounding a bunch of other things, so.
So just to kind of summarize and decide what we're going to look at for the budget on the 22nd. So Trails and Greenway, we're going to pursue the safety grant for that
Yeah.
portion of Ridgewood.
Mhm.
And if we find out that that's not a feasible project for ODOT, then we're going to consider doing that ourselves.
That's $1 million, right?
For which,
The Ridgewood
Right.
Road
I agree.
corridor between,
oh, the sidewalk.
Yeah. connecting
could assess the
Kingsbury to
property
the
owner.
sidewalk
Yeah.
on 21.
I agree.
All right, then we're going to pursue the southern trail connecting from the park
From
to
a,
Cleveland Maslin.
from a planning perspective,
From
so
a
like, yeah,
planning.
outreach and looking into, it and then applying for that at the beginning of next year.
Right.
Okay.
We are going to find out about an appraisal for the Akron Youth Little Farms Panzer project.
Yeah.
And see if we are going to donate or devote some money to that. And we're going to, under internal improvements, look at parking at the circle, the ball field at the middle school, and possibly the CIC property that's on the circle, maybe a ground lease. Look at a senior playground at Copley Community Improvement, or Copley Park. And third, we have all this money left, would be the crushed limestone trail on Tri-State property.
Yeah.
And then we're going to pursue the Sunset Drive improvements with CISO.
Yes.
Yes.
And we're going to get the design and bond council prepared to issue bonds and perhaps even issue them in 2021.
Yes.
And then,
I really would like to have that happen.
and then we would pursue sewer like we are doing on an ongoing basis. And the safety facility would probably be a discussion next year. So that,
Did you mention the sidewalk in that list there?
no, not yet. That's, so then we're going to do the second.
Yeah.
So safety facility. There's been some discussion in recent days about improving the police department and the fire department to get them through until we build a safety facility. I know Chief Meyer put together a PowerPoint of his building that he probably would like to show you. And fire has some concerns, mainly, I think theirs is more space. It's not structural damages.
So for the record, when Chief Meyer, for the record, I want to make sure this is clear.
Mhm.
When Chief Meyer, it came up that the police station needed improvements and several of us were clearly advocating that through emails. There was no question in my mind that Chief Bauer would show up and say he wanted some too. But then he backed down and said, I'll wait till next year.
Yes.
For the record.
Yes.
So I'm gonna make a suggestion on that. We had a safety building
There's
committee.
even more to that story.
So rather than trying to do this as a group, you want to reconvene and you and I meet with them and then bring some ideas back to the board on what we should do. I'm an advocate not to spend, they're gonna get a new building, whether or not it's during our tenure or not. That's for discussion, but they're gonna have to. They can't live the way they're living down there and keep growing. They can't live the way they're living down there and keep growing. So if I don't want to put hundreds of thousands of dollars in something and have a new building in 3 years. If I can do 10,000 and do it in 3 years, it's fine, or something like that. So you want to do that?
Sure.
Well,
I mean, what I'm asking is that, how about you guys?
well, I'm curious if Janice has an idea what the request is so far. What are they looking to do?
Well, so when Mark brought up, let's just build a police station, and we had plans and we had things in place, I'm sure that's what Chief Meyer would like to do. I think the extent of damage at that building is pretty extensive. So I'm sure he would like to see a new police building built.
Yeah.
You said more.
It could be a
No,
Mark,
Chief Meyer.
Mark,
Did I say Mark?
Mark brought it up in an email.
Oh, yeah.
He
Mark.
resurfaced the plan from 2008 or whatever.
Right.
Oh,
and Chief Meyer would like a little bit of a legacy there too, I'm sure. He'd like to get that done during his tenure. I get all that.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's leaking, there's roof damage, there's windows, there's, door
you're
operations.
talking about my
there's
son's
just-
house.
So,
I just, there's so many other things that this township needs. That I just,
I think we can look at it about cosmetic. And maybe.
Well, you gotta
we'll negotiate
remember-
with Bruce, so we'll have to come to a comfortable number, but that can change what we have to spend in the long run too. if we extend and then we revisit, what the needs are, because a lot of things have changed. And
Well,
we're dealing with the expansion of the joint dispatch. We're dealing with, we have another, are you trying to slam the gavel?
no, I'm just saying, no,
If
not at
you
all.
hit it on there, then you have the floor back. Go ahead.
So if, don't forget, all these projects here, we're trying to do out of our current budget. We've already come to an agreement that if we build a safety center, that's going to be on a separate issue by bonds or going to the public to offer up a levy to pay for a bond system.
Right.
So that funding that, although is a concern, is something different than we're talking about today. We're talking about how we're going to expend our current budget without tax increases. If the community wants a safety center, then we will build it. And it was going to cost like $1.5 million. Right?
I think so. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
it was going to be
details.
we looked at a couple different things. $1.5 million would make the payments on the building fully. A $1 million plus revenue from our current budget would make the rest. So it could be done. With interest rates the way it's low right now and the amount of support our safety services get, I would guess that the community would support it. So we're not really changing any of our other priorities here because we're not expending funds that we're currently trying to allocate. Does that make sense?
I don't know if a levy for a safety center would pass.
I think it would, but you're right. It's up to the
Yeah,
public.
and Alon has.
And you're talking a safety center with both fire and police. And I guess I'm, even if it was just a police, I'm not sure if it passes. I mean, everybody in this room clearly supports our police, but
Look at the levy numbers though.
levies are different,
I get it.
Levies are a little different. And the way we did the levy, remember, we didn't have to do a police levy this last year. We did a fire levy.
We did a place levy the year before.
Right. But that was
It's
pre
all-
BLM and everything else that's
It becomes a
happened.
strategy. Yeah.
And
I get
I
it.
Just,
But we're banting, my opinion, we're talking about a subject that's irrelevant. Let it happen. I let the public say what they want.
Exactly.
And if they say no,
And it's not-
we got to
Okay.
tell, that's
but we have to bring it back to in between when the public says yes or no, the police still need a home.
So here, that's why I'm saying this. Let's get this on the ballot, maybe for not 2021, but 2022. And then figure out if they do want it. If they say yes, then we're building it. And then if we don't, then we start expending funds to fix what they have.
He's talking about fixing the roof now.
Those numbers, those are ongoing maintenance issues. That
Right.
building is worth something, whether or not the
Yeah.
police are in it or the machine shop that was there before.
Right.
We need to fix that. That building's worth something. You wouldn't
We captured space.
You would not fix your house leaking because you're gonna
Dispatch
sell it.
moved out.
Well, so, but
Let's have Meyer do his presentation and we'll have a lot more.
the purpose of this year's budget, though, I guess we're saying is anything that happens is not coming out of capital improvements. It's coming out of the
Facility maintenance,
facility maintenance or the
service
local.
department. Okay, we can, that can resolve the budget.
Yeah,
Which is
you're
general
talking about-
fund.
yeah, we can take general fund money. The police department could pay for their own repairs if we had to, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the levy
Okay.
allows for that.
Okay, and the service department could cough in money too if we had to?
Not,
They cannot?
not
Okay.
out of their levy funds.
Okay, all right. So I thought their building maintenance was in there. That building
No,
maintenance
that's
comes out of
general
the,
fund.
you're right, okay.
And I certainly didn't want to argue with Mark about that. It would come out of the general fund. But in my mind, if you're making repairs to the police station, it's coming out of police funds.
Well, I'm certainly not here to penalize one department or anything, but we've got to make the best no matter what. you do.
Right, so I mean,
if we have to, we have to.
we're asking the fire department to pay for all their own expenses. in this building.
Yeah.
And just,
Well, and this kind of is a year to do it because they have a very healthy
Because
carryover.
we've
They have never
altered their,
had $700,000
we've all altered
carryover
their.
but
with a
balance.
$600,000 capital account.
Right.
So,
But don't look at it as a gift because that can be gone in a second.
Oh,
They roll that ladder truck over there, you're gonna spend $1 million for it to replace it. You know, I don't know what the police have a better, their equipment is cheaper.
he also has a lot of capital needs that he's
Yes.
telling me.
We don't have insurance on the truck.
Yeah, but they're only gonna pay the value, and that's a 26-year-old truck.
So that's not gonna be.
so we better not take it out.
Don't,
Right.
don't,
We got historic plates on it.
don't roll that.
So that's my opinion on I'm just putting it out there for the board. That's my opinion. Let's get it on the 2022 ballot and see if the people want to pay for it. If they
Okay.
don't want it, we won't do it. I'm fine with it.
Not 2021? Come on, guys.
I'm no.
I don't care, but I think
There's
it'll
too much
pass.
work to be done before that.
I think we'll know better, more.
You would
Well,
have
no.
expected me, you would have disappointed if I would not posted you.
I think
No,
we'll know
you-
You know me too well not
no,
to
that's
expect.
a fair question.
I think we'll know the economy better.
Someone else is gonna ask that question, not just you.
Yeah.
You just prepared us for the answer.
Well, by 2022, we'll know the economy a little bit better.
Yeah.
We'll know about interest rates and,
We'll have a bond rating.
pardon?
We'll have a bond.
We'll
rating.
have a bond rating and we'll have moved past this point where
Right, and it could
we've
be.
done these recent levy increases.
So let's let Chief Meyer come in and do his talking, Doug and Tony show, and then we can go from there.
Do you want it before the 22nd or on the 22nd?
I would do it on the 22nd.
That's what he was
Yeah.
thinking. So I
Yeah.
just want to make sure you don't want to go forward.
Does Bauer have anything for capital improvements in his building for the 22nd?
He might. I don't know.
So of the items that you enumerated, that these are our choices, that this is the wish list. Do we want to go through and rank those? Just so when we run out of money, we run out of money,
Sure.
right? I think we're saying that the sidewalk, at the middle school sidewalk was number one. We're saying to do that, right? Is that fair? Bruce,
Yeah.
Scott?
Yeah, absolutely.
CISO contract with Sunset.
Yeah, all the CISO stuff is in.
Yeah, that's the thing you gotta do this year, right? Keep talking loud. Figure this out.
Janice had, it sounded like a much more organized list than I
She
did.
just went down the list,
Well, I don't know if it's in order.
So
but I mean, she has.
yeah, and would be the Little Farms project.
I think you have to strike with Aaron's eye on Little Farms, I do.
Well, let's expend the funds for talk about appraisal.
Senior playground.
The reason I say that,
No, the park, the circle parking was above the seat.
If we can fund it, what if we can't? Are we wanting to invest in that regardless of any kind of, my initial thought is that it might be out of the scope of a park improvement.
I agree.
So we might want to look at just funding that out.
which one?
The parking with the school, or the
Okay.
lease to per,
Yeah, that needs to get in there.
But if you do the land lease with the school system, and all of a sudden all you're doing is doing crushed limestone, that's pretty cheap.
Let me ask you this
do some
question.
permitting in both favors.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
shoot ourselves in the foot, but if we did parking there, that would be an improvement to the CIC property there as well. Would you not agree?
To the
Absolutely.
Copley Road parcel?
Circle parking.
Yeah, but to the Coonhouse, the 3564. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I would, that's a fairly small parcel that we'd love to develop commercially. And I'd hate to have to put 20 spaces in there and
Okay.
preclude it from a use that would really be beneficial. So yes, to your original
That
question.
being said, I'm
have some
gonna
overlap.
plant a seed. I'm not sold on it myself yet. If we're doing that, would the board want to consider reducing the amount of the annual payment to the CIC? Because we would fund that parking lot. It would help them as well. I'm talking about a one-time thing.
Well, it's gonna be hard to take below zero.
Right.
Well, we're at 225 right now.
I think that's a discussion we'll have on the 22nd when we see what the numbers
Yeah.
are.
Okay.
Yeah, we can
That money has
flex
like,
that.
that money is budgeted for everything on the list. And at some point,
That's why we did the designation agreement and why I all the land.
Sounds like I missed out on a conversation.
Mhm.
Yeah, you were planning on I think you might have shopping during the trustee meeting. I'm not
I
sure.
was on there.
you buying shoes.
Oh, no, it's somebody else.
Connection to the park from Cleveland Maslin. It's on the
Yeah.
list.
That
Where does
is,
that fall?
Well, I really don't think.
That's not gonna be funds
That's not-
expended this
Yeah, I
year.
don't
Money.
think, I don't think, I just want you to, support that, because like I said, these are gonna be pretty intensive, planning and outreach on both of those projects. And I kind of wanted to maybe at least get your blessing on the park corridor. That's how EDG has it laid out.
That's gonna be a lot of money.
I will,
That's a long way.
maybe it's unfair, Janice, to categorize all these things, because the funding's not all coming out of this year's budget.
But we might have to we might have to put a little money aside to engineer that to see what, get an estimate of cost on that, correct?
We do have that, you have I think that would suffice for at least a grant application.
This would? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
And then we can use the funding source to fund that project, you can use for design and engineering. So you
Okay.
can get money. And it's just, and the other thing with those projects is you have to either have an easement or you have to have the land or a letter from the landowner. So that's why I said those are really hard to go for
So
without.
that takes a while.
It takes a while because you want everybody's buy-in. They don't want to give you funds and
It's
say.
just to get the for Sunset Drive. But
Yeah. Safety grant for the Ridgewood corridor.
Yeah, I
Get
just
that in
wrote
there?
that down.
So we can,
You can email us back and forth before the 22nd.
One thing that's not in your list, one thing we did discuss here is it's gonna cost money to deal with Louis. Or is that already cooked into the,
That'd be part of the Sunset Drive.
Yeah, I thought we were connecting them to sewer.
Yeah,
it's already cooked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're connecting the sewer and giving them some concrete, correct? Is that what you guys worked out? I haven't seen the final agreement, but that's what our initial.
yeah, so what's like.
He didn't decide
it's a-
exactly
it's
what
a-
he wants on the
Yeah, land
property.
exchange.
He hasn't decided how.
Because,
but
you know,
that's
we,
what-
depending on how the road goes through, we might not have to cut any of this parking lot. And then we could just do a land exchange and then do the utilities and stuff.
Perfect, okay.
Okay, so how about the crushed limestone trail on the tri-state property?
Yeah, I need to walk that, or Mark needs to walk that, and he can give you an idea. That could be, I don't know how is it all drained, like where you need a lot of culverts.
Well, it all goes down to the lake. And the Shockalog Creek runs through there. And
So you're not looking at a bunch of
no,
culverts.
it's a true creek that runs through there. It's not swamp, but it's low. I mean, it would flood in a heavy flood, but it's a creek.
Well, we'd have to draw,
It's kind of boggy.
how many feet would the
For
trail
the,
be?
for the riparian setback in the floodplain, you are allowed to have passive, like open space and trails. I just don't, I don't know if we could qualify that as just like mowing and not, having to do anything. Because the most, and I'll send you pictures again, we walked it.
Just having a dirt trail
Most
to
of it is
start.
like, it's like shoulder high. It's not, there's a good, huge open area that's not forested or anything like
Yeah.
that. So it just
Trees can't grow on it.
Yeah.
It's so boggy.
All right, well, so that'll take some investigation, but so it may come out, if you're saying we can you can have a dirt path.
I'm gonna look into the,
But it's truly.
But we can-
truly a confined creek bed.
Well, we can improve it, we can improve the dirt path as a minimal. Have Mark look at it. He's dealt with a lot of that.
And I'll look at that,
Trail.
those.
And he
nature
could
work
put a
grants.
number on, he could have him put together the options. Mark could say dirt path, crushed limestone, and he could even project is there enough space to put in a, wide improved trail at some point, just to know ahead of time, yeah, we're gonna bulldoze this part and here's what works.
I mean,
He'll do it.
Yeah.
He's,
Don, you walked it, obviously. I walk it, and you can put a nature trail.
Yeah, we got all the way to the pond from.
I've been there, but I didn't walk the whole,
You don't want to go out there in high heels or anything, Janice. I mean, you'll sink in pretty good.
Yeah,
But
yeah, we walked the whole thing. It's neat. I mean, it's a bigger piece of land than you think.
yeah,
Feels huge.
yeah, it looks bigger. And I think part of that is because the right of way for ODOT coming off 77.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks bigger than the 78.
So the
Okay.
two things I'm not including on the list are target sewer projects, just because that's an ongoing discussion, probably not needing funding in 2020,
okay.
and the safety facility.
Right.
So there's 8 projects, just to review. Middle school sidewalk, the CISO contract on Sunset Drive, Little Farms Pansner property, circle parking, senior playground, connecting the park from Cleveland Maslin, which is just not money necessarily, but community outreach. Ridgewood Road, connecting the high school to Kingsbury if there's no safety grant available. And then the trail on Tri-State.
Yeah. I think it's a great list.
Is that the priority list? Is that the list in order?
That's what I heard, but I mean,
Well, the problem is in listing order, except for the top one where it's clearly all on us. Some of the other stuff might be grants, you don't know.
Right, but we have the CISO, that's on us, that's on us. Little farms, we might want to put circle parking above little farms, in my opinion.
Well, this one is
Maybe not cost.
well, no, this one is gonna happen. He's
No,
selling
that's
he's
true,
selling
you're
the property,
you're right.
so it has to be up there.
Right.
We'll have to decide that one. These are all in the mix, decide as it
Okay.
comes along. That one, we're gonna have to
Yeah,
decide
that's,
how we're doing it.
that was the only one I was
and-
questioning, but that's correct.
That could be the first one that comes up.
Right.
And then, as I said, you got to strike with Aaron's hot on it.
Yeah,
I don't think you want to let that go.
No, definitely not. That's,
But having said that, I want to reiterate, it has to have a broader use than just grade scores going over differentiation. It has to have a broader community use.
it needs to have some type of trail and a public park feel. And the university gets, so yeah, they say we're not putting money in, but they could also, you can have an appeal. They have alumni that donate money to something. Even if it's 10 grand or 20 grand. You know what I mean?
Write the check. You heard about that.
Yeah. Is that all I have to pay for? Is there anything else you need money for?
We'll see what Rittman did too, what other communities have done. It's a good,
But the UA, so, but they have the full of, a vast alumni group to say, hey, we're getting a deal on this. This is unique for the university to have to own a wetland.
yeah.
Because they're not out in Montana. They're in Akron, Ohio. They're a municipal university, and to participate, that is why it's such a big deal to them, to be able to offer to all of their sciences this type of, hey, guess what we have?
Yeah.
We have this very highly rated wetland. So people give money to that all the time. That's,
One thing that I want to mention too, that I'm not sure, like, as you're looking at the multimodal routes, remember, Fairlawn was putting the path right to 77. Coming up Cleveland Maslin right to 77. Okay,
There was a map showing that we could connect to too at one time.
so when you're starting to talk about making connections to the high school, and we have all the connections going up and down Ridgewood Road, one of them's got to shoot the hell up Cleveland Maslin to get
to the freeway.
touch the freeway to connect, because they're taking that path all the way into Montrose, the sidewalks that they're already in.
Nice.
So
From the Rock.
From
from
I-77.
77 and Cleveland, Massillon. They're gonna, the path is supposed to dead end right there, just on the south side of my office basement. It's supposed to dead end.
It's on the other side of the roundabout.
Yes. And then so it's a path to nowhere once you're down there. And the right thing is for us to somehow maybe come up Cleveland, Massillon to get into high school. So. it's the right thing.
So who's going to do it under the bridge? I mean, maybe that's an ODOT safety project,
Yeah,
part
maybe.
2. Because that's got to be all ODOT right away, right?
Right, yeah.
No. Yeah, it's a county road.
So, we can check with Ernie and see exactly where it ends.
Yeah.
But the plan is still to bring it there and dead end it.
Yeah, I saw that on the road.
So
All right.
this was good.
Okay. You guys doing a good job herding cats?
So.
I'll second. All fair say aye.
So, and as you're finding, so he brought it up, for the, so